The Buccaneers safety has gotten officially waived from the team. According to reports, this decision to waive Sanders was in connection to an on-field incident in which Sanders would end up striking opposing player.
I'm proud of my kids, all of them. And I prepared my kids for any and everything that could possibly happen in life and in sports.
Eric Dickerson just dropped a bombshell about Shiloh Sanders getting waived by the Buccaneers. And if what he's saying is even halfway true, it could explain why Deion Sanders' sons keep getting dragged through the mud by the NFL. Within just one chaotic week, the Sanders boys made more headlines than some veterans do in an entire season, and not for good reasons. Shiloh got tossed out of a preseason game after throwing hands with another player, and less than 24 hours later, the Bucs cut him loose without a second thought. Meanwhile, his brother Shadur didn't fare much better. He was sacked 5 brutal times in just one half, benched before he could even breathe, and the media wasted no time pushing the narrative that he doesn't even deserve to wear an NFL jersey. Now, to the casual fan, this might look like 2 young players simply struggling to adjust to the league, but Eric Dickerson insists there's something much dirtier happening behind closed doors. According to him, this isn't about talent, it's about politics. He claims the NFL has been waiting for an opportunity to humble the Sanders family, and Shiloh's release was just the opening move. Why? Because they can't stand the way Coach Prime carries himself. The flashy suits, the bold speeches, the cameras always following him. The league reportedly views Deion as a rebel who refuses to play by their rules.
A couple days, 3 days until roster cutdowns. How do you feel about that? Do you feel like you belong here on this team?
Obviously.
Dickerson is basically saying the NFL wants to make an example out of his kids, punishing them to indirectly clip Coach Prime's wings. And here's the part that really shakes things up. Eric Dickerson says this whole thing isn't random at all. It's about disrupting the system. And if you've been watching football long enough, you know this fits a very familiar pattern. The NFL has a long history of shutting out players who don't toe the company line. We've heard executives throw out wild comments like inmates running the prison. We've seen those plantation vibes people talk about when it comes to power dynamics. So what's happening with the Sanders family? Dickerson swears it's the same playbook all over again. Let's break it down step by step, starting with Shiloh. This man was just 24 hours away from making his very first regular season appearance in the NFL, a lifelong dream, seconds from becoming reality. But it all unraveled in a flash during that preseason matchup. Shiloh got tangled up with Bills tight end Zach Davidson, and cameras caught Zach grabbing Shiloh's face mask after the whistle.
In a discussion about player protests during the national anthem, Houston Texans owner Bob McNair said, quote, "We can't have the inmates running the prison."
Right there, that could have been a flag, or at the very least, refs stepping in to calm things down. But nope, they let it slide. Frustrated, Shiloh snapped. He threw a punch. Not the smartest move, sure. But here's where the double standard kicks in. Zach instantly switched into victim mode, acting like he was blindsided while Shiloh got painted as the aggressor. And let's be real, we've all seen these kinds of scuffles before. Preseason, training camp, joint practices, fights break out every year. And usually it's nothing major. Maybe a fine, maybe a warning, maybe a tiny suspension, then everybody moves on. But this time, Shiloh didn't get a second chance. He didn't even get 48 hours. Less than a full day later, Tampa Bay waived him cold and quick. And here's where it gets even messier. Tampa Bay coach Todd Bowles didn't even bother defending Shiloh. After the Bucs' 23-19 loss, reporters pressed him about the incident, and all he said was that what Shiloh did was inexcusable. That was it. No mention at all of Zach Davidson being the one who lit the match in the first place.
Well, you know you can't throw punches in this league. I mean, that's inexcusable. They're going to get you every time. Got to grow from that.
And then what did you say to the officials after that? It looked like you were possibly trying to argue with them.
We're talking about another play.
No accountability, no balance, just straight blame on Shiloh. But the real issue isn't just Shiloh getting flagged and tossed. It's the fact that the ref was standing right there, looking dead at Davidson, yanking Shiloh's face mask way after the whistle blew. Unnecessary roughness clear as day. And still, no flag was thrown. How does that even happen? That's what makes it look shady, like someone wanted Shiloh out from the start. And let's not forget, this isn't the first time he's been punished way harder than the situation called for. Back at Colorado, Shiloh got ejected for targeting on a hit most fans swore was a clean play. Even commentators said the call was weak. Now fast forward to the NFL. One heated preseason scrap, and suddenly his whole shot at the league gets snatched away. Meanwhile, Zach Davidson, he didn't even get whistled. Not one penalty. Nothing. And then, to make it worse, he straight up denied provoking Shiloh, telling reporters that Shiloh just got mad for getting blocked. And the media ate it up, framing it like Zach was some innocent bystander while Shiloh was the hothead who lost control. It's almost insulting how one-sided the coverage was. You don't even need to be a Shiloh Sanders fan to see the imbalance. So after seeing all this, can you really blame fans for believing the NFL is out here sabotaging Shiloh on purpose? Because honestly, none of it makes sense. Social media has been flooded with people calling foul. One fan on X flat out wrote, "A setup, the players were instructed to start something. The ref was instructed to wait for it. The ref watched the whole thing and only threw the flag once there was retaliation." Another said straight up, the league is conspiring against that family. And looking at how this all unfolded, it's hard not to feel like something bigger is going on.
It felt like you kind of were just finishing your block through the play, and he just felt some sort of way about it.
Yeah, something on the backside of screens we preach is the guy on the backside is making the touchdown block. I was just chasing the far deep DB and trying to finish through the whistle, and he had a little bit more to say.
Did you say to him, "You're too small"?
I didn't say anything. I may have gestured something, but if you get mad for getting blocked, I can't really control what he does.
Because here's the kicker. Just days before Shiloh's incident, his brother Shadur had his own drama with the Browns. It was the preseason game against the Rams, final 2 minutes on the clock. The perfect chance for Shadur to show he could handle real pressure situations. But out of nowhere, Coach Kevin Stefanski pulled him and sent in Tyler Huntley instead. Fans weren't buying that move at all, and now the accusations are flying that Stefanski deliberately sabotaged Shadur, part of what some are calling a coordinated effort to humble the Sanders name. The online reactions have been wild. One person on X claimed, Kevin Stefanski has pledged allegiance to Jim Crow to prove that Shadur Sanders doesn't belong. Another posted, they made their decision long before they even drafted him. Stefanski is just bold enough to show it. Go to a better organization, Sanders, please. These aren't just casual takes. These are fans convinced the system is stacked against them. And let's be real, if Shadur's spot was solid, he wouldn't have been yanked in crunch time for someone else to shine. That's exactly why the conspiracy whispers keep growing louder. Fans are saying this isn't about football, it's about politics, pride, and control. And this is exactly where Eric Dickerson jumps in, throwing gasoline on the fire with his bold claim that the NFL has been gunning for the Sanders family from day one. According to Dickerson, a highly reliable source inside the league told him directly that teams were warned not to draft Shadur. Why? Because the NFL wanted to make an example out of him, to humble Deion Sanders' whole movement. That's a heavy accusation, but Dickerson swears it's the truth.
What I heard from someone that's in the NFL, that the NFL told other, don't draft him, do not draft him. We're gonna make an example out of him. And this came from a very good source, And he said that, I won't say who, somebody called the Cleveland Browns and said, don't do that. Draft
Really?
him. Yep, draft him. Don't do that. Because they weren't going to draft him either. They weren't going to draft him.
And to be fair, this isn't the first time whispers like this have surfaced. Remember when Mike Florio hinted at the exact same thing? He suggested that the league was looking for a way to check Shadur because he refused to bow down and kiss the ring. The message was clear. Shadur wasn't just facing defensive lines, he was facing the politics of the Shield itself. But here's the divide. Not everyone is buying it. Some fans feel Eric Dickerson can't be taken too seriously because he's had his own battles with the NFL, meaning he might be projecting his gripes onto the Sanders saga. Then you've got the other side flat out saying forget conspiracies, Shadur just isn't good enough yet. Daniel Kelly, a former New York Jets scout, even addressed it directly on X. He dropped receipts by linking to Shadur's pre-draft scouting report and doubled down in his caption. I did the work on Shadur Sanders pre-draft. I put an undrafted free agent grade on him. Bottom line, he wasn't good enough and he's not good enough. He didn't show the skill set or the mindset needed to transition to the NFL. He hit his ceiling at Colorado, but here's the thing. Even if Daniel Kelly and other critics say Shadur just isn't NFL material, the timing of everything still looks suspicious. Fans can't ignore how fast these doors keep slamming in the Sanders family's face. And that's where Eric Dickerson's claim starts sounding less like a wild conspiracy and more like a carefully orchestrated plan. Think about it. Shiloh gets tossed for a fight that plenty of other players would have only been fined for. Shadur gets benched at a critical moment that could have showcased his poise. And now, insiders are whispering that the league might have straight up told teams not to draft him. That's not just a coincidence. That feels like someone pulling strings from the top. And when you zoom out, the NFL does have a history of shutting down outspoken families and players who don't fall in line. Dickerson even reminded folks that plenty of stars before the Sanders kids went through the same thing. Players with flash, players with strong personalities, players who didn't play politics. Some got labeled as locker room distractions. Others mysteriously found themselves without contracts. Meanwhile, the Sanders name is bigger than football. Deion turned college recruiting upside down, pulled cameras into Colorado, and showed that the culture could have just as much power as tradition. To some NFL executives, that's threatening. It's not just about two young men learning the ropes. It's about protecting the old guard from a family that refuses to bow. Fans online are saying the quiet part out loud. One viral post read, "This isn't about Shadur or Shiloh. It's about silencing Coach Prime's influence before it spreads into the NFL." Another said, "They don't want a new wave of players demanding spotlight, demanding freedom, and bringing their culture with them." And the internet isn't letting this slide either. Social media is buzzing with fans piecing together every shady detail, and the theories keep getting louder. Some folks are saying Shiloh and Shadur are just being made the fall guys so the NFL can prove a point that no one, not even Coach Prime's kids, is above their system. One fan wrote on X, "They're scared of Deion's influence, plain and simple. If his boys succeed, it validates his entire movement, and the NFL doesn't want that." Another posted, "Notice how every mistake they make gets blown up 10 times bigger than other rookies? That's not by accident." And honestly, you can't deny how different the coverage feels compared to other young players who've had rocky starts. Think about it. We've seen rookies get arrested, suspended, even miss practices without facing this kind of instant career death sentence. Yet for Shiloh, one preseason punch equals a ticket out the door. For Shadur, one rough game equals headlines saying he doesn't belong. The double standard is loud and fans aren't afraid to call it out. Eric Dickerson doubling down on these claims only adds fuel. He's not some random troll online. He's a Hall of Famer with connections. If he's saying the league is intentionally blackballing the Sanders family, people are going to listen. And even if some critics dismiss him, the whispers he's spreading are now turning into full-on conversations about race, power, and control in the NFL. He's the most hesitant quarterback I've ever evaluated. He had more character red flags than any prospect I've ever evaluated. That's what Daniel Kelly wrote in his pre-draft breakdown of Shadur Sanders, and he swore all the evidence was right there. Game film, interviews, character notes, the whole package. And if you dive into that scouting report, it doesn't hold back. It labels Shadur as tough, athletic, and resilient, but still calls him a low-ceiling prospect. It says he's got decent arm strength, but takes too long to warm up in games. Against top-ranked opponents, he gets rattled, goes into a shell, and struggles to speed up his reads when the pressure's on. The report points out fumbling snaps, hesitating behind the line of scrimmage, and an inconsistent progression game, basically locking onto one receiver and giving away his timing. Sure, it credits his mobility and poise in the pocket, but it questions whether he really trusts his receivers or even sees the whole field. And that's the raw scouting side of the story. But here's the flip side. Fans aren't convinced this is the full truth. They argue that Shadur might not be perfect, but the way his flaws are magnified feels deliberate. Other quarterbacks with the same struggles are given time, patience, and coaching. Meanwhile, Shadur gets benched, mocked, and dismissed as if his career is already finished before it even starts. And this is where people point back to Deion Sanders. Fans say the NFL has an agenda, not just against Shadur, but against the entire Sanders legacy, because Deion raised his sons to know their worth and refused to be silent. One powerful comment came from a Black Marine Corps veteran and single father who wrote, "For me, this is a tale as old as time. A young black man stands tall, raised with confidence, and the system will do anything to cut him down." At this point, a lot of fans see it as bigger than football. They see it as a reflection of something much deeper in America. One viral post said it plainly: "It is a systemic epidemic of white America to take issue with any black man who is present in his children's lives, teaching them confidence and showing them they are equal to any white man." That's heavy, but it speaks to how people view the NFL's treatment of the Sanders boys. The claim is that implicit bias, microaggressions, and blind favoritism are being used to derail their success before it even has a chance to grow. And honestly, history shows this ain't new. Time and time again, we've seen talented black athletes face harsher punishments, tighter scrutiny, and less patience than others. So to many, this just feels like another chapter of the same old story. History repeating itself right in front of us. Some are calling for accountability, but as one fan put it, "I won't hold my breath." The good news, Deion Sanders isn't folding under the pressure. When asked about Shiloh getting waived, he didn't flinch. He said he's not worried because his sons will be fine with or without the NFL. That confidence alone speaks volumes. Coach Prime believes their worth goes beyond any league, and he's making it clear that his family doesn't need validation from the system. So now it's on you. Do you think the NFL is really setting up the Sanders boys because they won't bow down? Or is this just the growing pains of two young players trying to make it in the toughest league in the world? And here's the biggest question. Does the NFL secretly fear that it needs Deion's sons more than Shiloh and Shadur need the league? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, subscribe, and stay locked in, because you already know the next story from our hood is about to shake things up even bigger.